I've carried this weight for years. It's the kind of thing you don't talk about, not with family, not with friends, and definitely not with strangers. But silence has its price. It locks you inside yourself, trapped with the echoes of your pain. I can't live like this anymore, so here I am, saying the words I've avoided for so long. I grew up in what most people would call an ordinary family. My brother, Caden Burke, was someone everyone admired. He had an effortless charm and could make anyone laugh, even on their worst days. My parents adored him, teachers praised him, and to the outside world he seemed flawless. For a long time I believed that too. But Caden had a side no one else saw, one that only came out late at night when the rest of the house was asleep. The first time it happened, I was 10 years old. I woke up to find him standing in my room by my bed. He said he couldn't sleep and asked if he could stay. I didn't think much of it. He was my brother, after all. Why would I? At first it was subtle, a hand that lingered too long, a touch that felt off but was hard to explain. I told myself I was imagining it, overreacting. But deep down I knew something was terribly wrong. I wish I could tell you I screamed, told my parents, or ran away, but I didn't. I froze. Every single time I froze. Because what do you do when the person hurting you is someone you're supposed to love, someone who's supposed to love you? I know there are others out there who've been through something similar. Maybe you were a child too, confused, scared, unsure of what was happening or why it was happening to you. Maybe, like me, you carried the weight of those experiences, unable to say them aloud. If that's you, I want you to know you are not alone. This story isn't easy to tell. It's messy, painful, and full of moments I wish I could forget. But it's my truth, and I'm done running from it. If you're here, listening, I ask you to stay with me. Hear me out, because this isn't just about what happened to me, it's about what happens when we confront our past, no matter how dark it may be. If this story resonates with you or you think it could help someone else, please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support means everything as I continue sharing my truth. Caden Burke was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He was 2 years older than me, and everyone adored him. My parents would brag about his grades, his smile, and how polite he was. Teachers loved him, neighbors waved at him, and even strangers would stop my mom to praise him. On the surface, we seemed like the perfect family. My dad worked long hours but always made it home for dinner. My mom kept the house spotless and baked cookies that smelled like a scene from a movie. We had birthday parties, family vacations, and matching Christmas sweaters. But looking back, it's clear there were cracks beneath the surface. My dad had a temper. He never hit us. But his yelling was enough to make you feel small, like you'd done something horribly wrong, even when you hadn't. My mom would smooth things over, pretending everything was fine, but the tension never truly went away. And Caden knew how to stay out of trouble. He always said the right thing, did the right thing. He was the child my parents could be proud of. As a kid, I worshipped him. He was my big brother, my protector, the one who taught me to ride a bike and shared his Halloween candy with me. He made me laugh when I was sad and defended me when other kids were mean. I loved him. I trusted him. And for a long time, I believed he loved and protected me too. The first time something felt wrong, I was about 7. We were playing hide and seek in the house, and I hid in my parents' closet. Cadden found me, but instead of tagging me and running off like usual, he sat beside me. He told me it was our secret spot, where no one else could find us. At the time, it felt special, like he had chosen to share something just with me. But then he put his arm around me, and his touch didn't feel playful. It felt strange. I didn't know why. As the years passed, these moments became more frequent. He'd find reasons to sit too close, touch my arm or leg, or tickle me in ways that felt less playful and more like testing boundaries. I didn't understand it, but I couldn't ignore the knots in my stomach when he came into my room at night, or the way my skin crawled when his hugs lingered too long. I kept telling myself it was normal, that I was overthinking it, that brothers and sisters were supposed to be close. But as I grew older, it became harder to believe those lies. By the time I was 10, I was terrified of him. I was terrified to fall asleep, knowing he might enter my room. His smile felt like a quiet threat, as though he knew something I didn't. I hated myself for staying silent, for doing nothing to stop it. But what could I do? He was Caden, the one everyone loved, the one my parents constantly praised. If I spoke up, who would believe me? Who would want to believe their perfect son could do something so cruel? One night, when I was about 12, I gathered the courage to tell my mom I didn't want to share a room with him during a visit to my grandparents. I said I needed my own space, that I was growing up and wanted privacy. She laughed and said, "Oh, honey, Caden wouldn't hurt a fly. Don't be silly." And that was it. The conversation was over. So I stayed quiet. For years, I kept everything to myself, but that silence came at a cost. I couldn't look at him without feeling a mix of fear, anger, and guilt. I still loved him, he was my brother, but I hated him too, for what he'd done and for what he continued to do. That inner conflict was unbearable. How do you love someone who's caused you so much pain? How do you hate someone you're supposed to love? I didn't have answers then, and even now, I don't have them all. But one thing I do know is this: pretending it didn't happen doesn't make it disappear. It doesn't erase the memories or lessen the pain. It doesn't make you feel any less alone. Thanksgiving was a major tradition in our family. My mom loved to host, and the house would fill with relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, all sharing food, stories, and laughter. It was supposed to be a time of joy, but for me it became the night everything changed. By 17, I had mastered the art of pretending I was fine, pretending I didn't dread being around him, pretending the memories of what he'd done weren't haunting me. That Thanksgiving, I couldn't pretend anymore. The day was its usual chaos, pots clattering, my mom giving instructions, my dad joking with uncles. And Caden? He was charming everyone, helping out, making them laugh. To everyone else, he seemed perfect. But I couldn't even look at him without feeling sick. After dinner, as everyone relaxed in the living room, I slipped away to the guest room, craving a moment of peace. I didn't lock the door. Maybe I thought I didn't need to anymore, that he wouldn't follow me. that he'd changed. But I was wrong. The door creaked open behind me, and I froze. He stood there, smiling like nothing was wrong. He sat on the edge of the bed, making some excuse about wanting to talk, asking if I was okay. I don't remember what I said, probably something short, trying to make him leave. But he didn't. He reached out, touched my hand, and moved his hand to my leg. Before I could process it, before I could react, his hand was somewhere it had no right to be.
Rooted. It only lasted a moment, but it felt like forever. He must have seen the shock and anger in my eyes because he laughed it off like it was nothing. Then he stood up and said I shouldn't take things so seriously before walking out. I sat there, shaking, trying to make sense of what had just happened. That night, I couldn't go back downstairs. I stayed in that room, staring at the wall, feeling dirty, broken, and so angry. Since that night, I've done everything I can to avoid him. I skip family gatherings unless I know he won't be there. I've blocked his number, ignored his texts, and looked the other way when we cross paths in public. But no matter how far I run, he's always there, lingering in the back of my mind. When they do see him, I laugh. I don't know why. Maybe it's my way of pretending it doesn't bother me, of convincing myself I'm over it. But I know he knows. I see it in his eyes, the way he avoids looking at me for too long, the way he acts like everything is normal. He knows what he did, and he knows I remember. I've tried to move on. I've gone to therapy, read books about healing, done everything I can to leave the past behind. And for the most part, I'm okay. But then I see him, hear his name, or notice someone who looks like him, and it all comes rushing back. The shame, the anger, the guilt. I hate that he still has power over me. I hate that after all these years, I'm still trying to figure out how to take it back. So, if you're wondering why I'm telling this story now, it's because I'm done running. I'm done pretending. This isn't just about what happened that night or the nights before. It's about standing up and saying, this happened, it was real, and it wasn't my fault. I'm saying it for myself and for anyone else who's ever felt like their pain doesn't matter. It does. You do. Trying to make sense of what had just happened, I stayed in that room staring at the wall. I felt dirty, broken, and consumed by an overwhelming anger. That night, I couldn't bring myself to go back downstairs. Since then, I've done everything I can to avoid him. I don't attend family gatherings unless I know he won't be there. I've blocked his number, ignored his texts, and looked the other way when we cross paths in public. But no matter how far I run, he's always there. When I do see him, I laugh. I don't know why. Maybe it's my way of pretending it doesn't hurt, convincing myself that I'm over it, but I know he knows. Um, I see it in the way he avoids meeting my eyes, the way he tries to act like everything is normal. Um, he knows what he did, and he knows I remember. I've tried to move on. I've gone to therapy, read books about healing, and done everything I can to leave the past behind. For the most part, I'm okay. But then I'll see him, hear his name, or catch a glimpse of someone who looks like him, and it all comes rushing back. The shame, the anger, the guilt. I hate that he still holds this power over me, even after all these years. Um, I hate that I'm still trying to figure out how to take it back. So if you're wondering why I'm telling this story now, it's because I'm done running. I'm done pretending. This isn't just about what happened that night or the nights before. It's about finally standing up and saying, this happened, it was real, and it wasn't my fault. I'm saying this for myself and for anyone else who's been made to feel like their pain doesn't matter. It does. you do. Sometimes I wonder why it still lingers. It's been years, decades, really. I've built a life, moved forward in ways I never thought possible. I've gone to therapy, worked through the memories, and told myself time and again that I'm stronger than what happened to me. But even now, there are moments when it feels as fresh as the day it happened. It's not constant, not like before, but there are triggers, holidays, family gatherings, even a familiar smell or song that bring it all flooding back. In those moments, I wonder, what if I confronted him? What if I made him admit what he did? But I've realized that some answers don't bring peace. They only reopen old wounds. I don't think I'll ever fully understand why he did it. Was it about power? Something broken inside him? Or just because he could? These are questions I've stopped expecting answers to. It's about finding it within yourself. For me, that's meant reclaiming my story, speaking my truth instead of letting it define me. Um, but even now, when I see him, when we're in the same room at a wedding or family event, I can't help but laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's the only way I know to cope. It's a strange nervous reflex, my body's way of pretending I'm okay. Um, I can see it in his face. He knows. He knows exactly what I'm really thinking. And I think that terrifies him more than anything. I used to hate him for what he did, for stealing my innocence and trust. Part of me still does, but now I mostly pity him because while I've worked to heal and move forward, he's the one who has to live with himself. He's the one who carries the weight of what he did every single day. To anyone listening who has gone through something similar, know this: you're not alone and your pain is valid, no matter how long ago it happened or how deeply you've buried it. Healing isn't a straight path. It's messy and takes time, but it's possible, and it begins with acknowledging your truth, even when it's hard. Whew. And to my brother, if you're watching this, you know what you did. I've spent too many years wondering why, but I'm done letting those questions take up space in my mind. This isn't about you anymore. It's about me reclaiming my power. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Sharing it isn't easy, but I hope it helps someone feel a little less alone. If you can relate, or if you have thoughts on why these memories linger, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you think this story could help someone else, please share it. Healing starts with conversations like these, and I'm so grateful to share this moment with you. Thank you.